king of beers. When you say Budweiser, you've said it all.
Anheuser-Busch, headquarters, St. Louis, Missouri.
When you say Budweiser, when you say Bud, you said a lot of things nobody else can say. When you say Bud, you say you care enough to only want the king of beers. When you say Budweiser, you said it all.
Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis, Missouri.
When you say Bud, you said a lot of things nobody else can say. There is no other one, there's only something less. Because the king of beer, oh, is leading all the rest. When you say Budweiser, you said it all.
Anheuser-Busch, headquarters, St. Louis, Missouri.
When you say Bud, you say a lot of things nobody else can say. Say it, say it. When you say Bud, say it. You say you care enough to only want the king of beers. When you say Budweiser, you said it all.
Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis, Missouri.
When you say Bud, you've said a lot of things nobody else can say. When you say Bud, you say you care enough to only want the king of beers. There is no other one, there's only something less. Because the king of beers is leading all the rest. When you say Budweiser, you've said it all.
Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis, Missouri.
When you say Bud,
You've said a lot of things nobody else can say. When you say Bud,
you say you care enough to only want the king of beers.
there is no other one, there's only something less. Because the king of beers is leading all the rest. When you say Budweiser, you've said it all.
Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis, Missouri.
When you say Budweiser,
I was getting off the super slab and this sweet thing says to me,
If you got them ears on, beer man, come on back to this home 20.
she got the king of beers for 100 years, 10-10 on the side. And I'd love to hear that sweet thing say at the end of every ride.
There is no other one,
That's right.
there's only something less. Because the king of beers is leading all the rest. When you say Budweiser,
10-7.
you said it all.
Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis, Missouri.
when you say Bud, you said a lot of things nobody else can say. When you say Bud, you say you care enough to only want the king of beers. There is no other one, there's only something less. Because the king of beers is leading all the rest. When you say Budweiser, you said it all.
Anheuser-Busch, headquarters, St. Louis, Missouri. Budweiser presents Beer Talk. Let's say after your next picnic, some of that leftover beer warms up. Now then, is it okay to chill it again? The answer is yes. If the beer doesn't get too hot, heat can spoil the taste of any good beer. And if that beer is Beechwood-aged Budweiser, that's something to really get frosted about. So make sure you play it cool with any leftover Bud. In fact, why not make sure there's none left over? Anheuser-Busch, headquarters, St. Louis, Missouri. Budweiser presents Beer Talk. Does beer improve with age? What do you say? Definitely or definitely not? Well, the Budweiser people say not indefinitely. Beer is really aged only at the brewery, not in your basement. And when it's Budweiser, that aging is more than complete. It's unique. An exclusive Beechwood aging process that just can't be improved. But it sure can be enjoyed. Anheuser-Busch, headquarters, St. Louis, Missouri. Budweiser presents Beer Talk. You don't see a lot of people putting salt in their beer these days, and that's fine, especially with the Budweiser Brewmaster, because all salt can do to Bud is make it salty. You see, Bud is a complete and ready-to-drink beer if there ever was one. So save the salt for the popcorn. All you need to fully enjoy the Beechwood-aged taste of Budweiser is a Budweiser.
You've said it all.
Anheuser-Busch, headquarters, St. Louis, Missouri. Budweiser presents Beer Talk. Sip by sip by sip. That's one way to drink beer, but when it's Budweiser, a good long drink's better. That's the best way to enjoy Bud's rich Beechwood-aged flavor and aroma. Of course, big swallows will empty your schooner sooner, but look at the bright side. Now you got room for more.
You said it all.
Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis, Missouri. Budweiser presents Beer Talk. A lot of people like their beer ice cold, but too cold can be too bad for the flavor of great beer. Take Budweiser. It's brewed and Beechwood aged to taste best at about 40 degrees. Of course, if you're on a picnic and the Bud's on ice and nobody brought a thermometer, go right ahead. It's nothing to get hot about. Anheuser-Busch, headquarters, St. Louis, Missouri. Budweiser presents Beer Talk. Lots of beer drinkers say the heck with the foam, fill that glass up to the brim. But hold it. When you're pouring Budweiser, Bud is brewed to taste best with a healthy head of foam. Those little Beechwood-aged bubbles are really something special, and the Bud Brewmaster would sure hate to see you miss out on a single one.
When you say Budweiser.
You've said it all.
Anheuser-Busch, headquarters, St. Louis, Missouri. Budweiser presents Beer Talk. A lot of folks like their beer right out of the can or bottle, and that's okay. But when you can, try your beer in a sparkling, clean glass, especially if it's Budweiser, because Bud simply tastes best when it can kick up a big, creamy head of foam. But bottle, can, or glass, as long as it's Budweiser, you've got the king of beers. Anheuser-Busch, headquarters, St. Louis, Missouri. This grand old republic has come a long way the last 2 centuries, but I'll tell you, this country's beer got as good as it's ever going to get 100 years ago, because that's when Budweiser was born, brewed and Beechwood aged to become the largest selling beer in the history of the world. Truly, the king of beers. So happy birthday, America, from your favorite beer.
When you say Budweiser, you said it all.
Anheuser-Busch, headquarters, St. Louis, Missouri. It only takes one glassful to know this beer. Budweiser is the king of beers. The crisp aroma of the choicest hops. And that famous snappy Budweiser taste that only the most careful brewing process and exclusive Beechwood aging can deliver. And deliver it does. A smoothness, a drinkability, and cold golden enjoyment you'll find in no other beer at any price. Anheuser-Busch, headquarters, St. Louis, Missouri. Way back in 1876, people started enjoying 2 things that have gone hand in hand ever since. Major League Baseball and Beechwood-aged Budweiser. And just as Abner Doubleday's invention became our national pastime, so did Adolphus Busch's brilliant golden creation become the king of beers. And together, they gave us 2 of the most famous phrases in the history of sports. play ball, and cold Bud here. Anheuser-Busch, headquarters, St. Louis, Missouri. There was a time when Budweiser didn't arrive in trucks or on freight cars, a time when roads and rails didn't reach those rugged outposts settlers and miners called home. But somehow the Budweiser always got through, on the backs of mules, on the decks of paddle wheelers, in covered wagons. And when it got there, Beechwood-aged Budweiser was the best beer in town, and it still is today. Anheuser-Busch, headquarters, St. Louis, Missouri. You know, there's more than 100 words on that Budweiser label. Words like rice. Yep, Budweiser is brewed with rice, and very few beers in America are. Rice can cost a little more than the corn or syrup other beers use, but the sparkling brilliance it gives Budweiser sure is worth it. Rice. Just one more reason why.
When you say Budweiser,
You've said it all.
Anheuser-Busch, headquarters, St. Louis, Missouri. A lot of folks say the only differences between beers are the names. Well, I know some people who wouldn't like to hear that, because for 100 years they've been Beechwood aging their beer to give it a taste, a smoothness, and a drinkability found in no other beer at any price. Why go to all that extra time and expense? They know you can tell a great beer when you taste it.
when you say Budweiser,
You've said it all.
Anheuser-Busch, headquarters, St. Louis, Missouri. Ever taken a close look at a glass of Budweiser? The Budweiser brewmasters have. In fact, they've been looking closely at Beechwood-aged Budweiser since it was first brewed back in 1876. And you know something? After 100 years of looking, they still think the only thing more beautiful than a glass of Budweiser is the taste of Budweiser. A taste that speaks for itself, loud and clear. Anheuser-Busch, headquarters, St. Louis, Missouri. Back in 1876, the Budweiser people made a promise to everyone who enjoys great beer. They promised that Budweiser would never change, that it would always be brewed with only the choicest ingredients and Beechwood aged, no matter what the cost. Today, 100 years later, that promise still stands, and Budweiser is still the king of beers. That's progress for you. Anheuser-Busch, headquarters, St. Louis, Missouri. Did you know that of all the beers in America, only one is brewed with an exclusive process? The beer I'm talking about is Beechwood-aged Budweiser. Of course, Beechwood aging costs more and takes longer, but it's helped make Budweiser the #1 beer in the country. And that just goes to prove we're not the only ones who care a lot about quality. Thanks, America, from your favorite beer. Anheuser-Busch, headquarters, St. Louis, Missouri.